That my family, my friends, and everybody always encouraged me to do this thing that I want to do, and I've been able to do it my entire life. And I'm reminded once in a while of the struggle that goes on around the world when people just are trying to do the thing that I'm able to do, or been able to do, actually without even being aware of it, been encouraged to do. But when we talk about all these big things that happen in the world, sometimes I try to remind people that don't just focus on the big story of the day. There's people right here in your own community, in your own little world, that you could actually help right there. We all like the idea of there being an abstract entity out there that needs our help. But this idea, like they're saying, bring Amnesty home. I live in a very low-income neighborhood in a very old, beat-down part. Beautiful to me, but to a lot of people, a very desolate part of Oklahoma City. And there's a lot of people sort of live not having very much. But the idea that we help each other seems to make the rich part of town seem sort of silly to me. So I'm always reminded, you know, look, there's probably people right down the street from you that can really, really use your help. So don't just think in this, focus in this one thing. This happens all over the place, and so I don't follow all the stories as well as you guys do, and I'm honored to be part of this this thing that seems to, you know, I mean, amnesty is a word I've heard almost my whole life now, and it becomes kind of a brand, and you forget that it's a powerful word, and this idea that we're asking people of power to somehow change their attitudes that we think are wrong. I hope we have more of an effect that they stop doing what they're doing, as opposed to just getting some of the people out of prisons. I think that's what we're talking about.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, thanks for having me. Yeah. I'll go back to being not so serious. Yeah.
And we have with us the Fred. I'm not sure who of you is going to speak, but we'd love it. Go ahead. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I think our society, as the U.S. and as the global neighborhood, will ultimately be judged by how we treat the voiceless and how we care for those who are imprisoned behind physical bars and behind bars that they can't even see. And that's on the other side of the equal sign. But on this side, we're still working, and there's a tremendous hope, I feel, when I see organizations like Amnesty doing tireless work to find the voiceless in the dark. And I love their logo of the candle. It shows hope that the people waiting to be rescued still have and still hold. It shows a light that has not been extinguished, and hopefully they can hold on just a little longer until help comes. And I think it's worth mentioning they're an incredibly legit organization. They have one of the highest ratings among every test you can use for a nonprofit. That you know the majority of your dollar is going to be going to people that need it. So it's a tremendous honor for the boys and I to be a part of not just an incredible fight, but an incredible legacy of concerts. 29, 30 shows since they had the idea in '86 to bring this marriage of justice and personalities and music and spirituality and physicality and sensuality all together in one place at one time to kick up a bunch of dirt and draw attention to the people that cannot speak for themselves.
Thank you. You know, I think that there's no question that the stakes are incredibly high for the people who we work with, for the prisoners in prisons. My generation, there is no question, my generation was inspired by Bob and his fellow musicians. It inspired a generation of activists around the world. It also made human rights a household name. And I think that what we're seeing today and what we're seeing in the last few weeks with the releases of our friends from Pussy Riot is that here's a group of women who have shown incredible courage and incredible leadership to stand up for what they believe in and to take on an extraordinarily repressive regime. And what we're going to have tonight is a whole new generation of entertainers who are carrying that torch, who've taken the baton. It doesn't mean that my generation have no more value, of course we do. But the fact of the matter is that what we do, if what we do has to continue to have power, then we have to be able to work with our musician friends to get that word out. So it's incredibly exciting, humbling for me, because I know what these girls have been through. It's extraordinary for me to be able to welcome Masha and Nadia. And I'm now going to turn the floor over to them. And when they've completed what they want to say, we'll have some time for questions. Thank you.
Мы хотели, во-первых, сказать спасибо за то, что такое большое количество людей и медиа присутствует здесь, на событии, которое посвящено правам человека и узникам.
First of all, we want to say thank you to all of you, to all the people and all the media who are here for this event dedicated to human rights.
Мы очень рады тому, что музыканты принимают участие в этом проекте. Мы считаем это очень важно.
We're very glad to see musicians taking part in this project. We think it's very important.
Когда мы только начинали Pussy Riot, одной из наших самых главных мыслей было то, что музыкант должен нести социальную ответственность.
When we first started Pussy Riot, one of our central thoughts was that a musician must bear social responsibility.
Как говорила одна из наших солисток Грррl, музыка должна петь не только о солнце и о любви.
As one of our singers, Grrrl, said, music must sing not only about sunshine and love,
но и о политике, и о тех людях, которые сидят за решеткой, и о тех людях, у которых нет голоса, как мы сейчас уже слышали. Это невероятно важно. И для нас большое счастье, что эту идею с нами разделяет огромное количество музыкантов.
We must also sing about politics. We must sing about people who are behind bars. We must sing about people who don't have a voice. And this is very important, and we're glad that so many musicians share our view.
И чтобы не быть многословными, мы встретимся на концерте.
We don't want to go on for too long right now, so we'll see you at the concert.
We'll take some questions now from a couple of journalists. I'm sorry, Anne. No, go ahead. Oh, sorry. If you just please state your name and your outlet, please.
Hi there, I'm John from Alyokhina. First of all, we're so happy that you're back healthy and safe, and we're thrilled to have you in the U.S. My question is, do you think that gay athletes, gay fans, tourists who are going to be in Russia for the Olympics can attend it safely?
Спрашивают, как вы считаете, гей спортсмены, гей зрители и прочие гей посетители, кто собирается ехать в Сочи, будут ли они там в безопасности? Мы
явно не можем этого гарантировать, потому что то, чем занимается наше государство в последнее время, это последовательное сжигание ненависти к представителям ЛГБТ-комьюнити.
That's not something that we think we can guarantee, because what our government has been doing lately has been inciting hatred towards the LGBT community.
В последнее время все чаще случаются случаи насилия по отношению к ЛГБТ-людям.
And we are seeing more and more violence against LGBT people.
Еще мы наблюдаем бездействие правоохранительных органов в таком случае, к сожалению.
And unfortunately, in these cases, we see law enforcement standing idly by.
And I just asked one follow-up. How has your experience in prison and then being released inspired the work that you're doing now with Amnesty in the U.S. and around the world? And if you had one message to Vladimir Putin today, what would it be?
Мы хотим сказать ему «уходи».
We want to say to him, leave.
Я бы добавила еще одно небезызвестное украинское изречение «банду геть».
Банду геть.
А что это банду геть?
Это лозунг украинской революции.
And to that I would like to add a Ukrainian phrase, bandu gets, which is the motto of the Ukrainian revolution.
То, что нам дал наш тюремный опыт, это абсолютное убеждение того, что мы не можем спокойно пройти мимо того, что мы видели эти 2 года. Равно поэтому сейчас мы работаем над созданием правозащитной организации, которая называется «Зона права», и она будет заниматься правами заключенных в России, но также мы хотели бы международного сотрудничества по наблюдению за правами заключенных.
And how our prison experience influenced us is that we realized we cannot be indifferent to the things that are going on in the prisons, which is why right now we are aiming to create a human rights organization called Zone of Law, and to also involve other international human rights organizations in observing the human rights situation in Russian prisons.
Would anyone else like to address Sochi before we take the next question?
We have a team of people right now following the Sochi situation. Amnesty's had an office in Moscow for almost 15 years now. So it's a very delicate balance actually being in Moscow, but Sochi is exceptional. As you know, it's also close to the northern Caucasus, where there's been a long reign of terror on the people living in the northern Caucasus region. The mayor of Sochi said just the other day that there are no gay people in Sochi. So I mean, they're obviously living in just simply another planet. So I think it's very difficult to give any kind of guarantees. There's just a reign of repression and discrimination and constant attacks. The new law talking about sexual propaganda with minors is against all international human rights law, and so Amnesty is going to push hard. But I think the more exposure that the media can give to the problems that the gay people are facing in Russia, the better it is. That could give some protection. But as I said earlier, our worry is actually more about what's going to happen after Sochi, because at least now some eyes are on Sochi. We're also going to have the G8 happening in Sochi, so there's going to be a second round of focus on Sochi. So thank you for raising the question.
Elaine Quijano, CBS News. I wonder, what is your message to Americans about Sochi right now? Realistically, what is it that you would like to see Americans do with respect to Sochi?
Во-первых, мы хотели бы, чтобы американцы держали глаза открытыми и не покупались на то, что пытается им продать Владимир Путин.
First of all, we want to see Americans keep their eyes open and not just buy whole what Putin is trying to sell them.
Во-вторых, мы призываем к бойкоту. К любому бойкоту на ваш вкус, он может быть активным, когда вы совершаете акции, митинги, демонстрации. Можете делать это в России, можете это делать в Америке или в любой другой стране. Главное не оставаться равнодушными. Вы даже можете делать акцию Pussy Riot, потому что Pussy Riot может быть любой. Либо вы можете просто отказаться от какого-либо участия, освещения Олимпиады. Это будет пассивный бойкот.
And the second thing we call for is a boycott. This can be an active boycott where you stage protests, demonstrations, and so on and so forth, whether in Russia or here, whatever form you want to give them. You can even do a Pussy Riot performance, because anybody can be a member of Pussy Riot. Or you can hold a passive boycott, which means not going to Sochi, not writing about Sochi.
Tolokonnikova, Radio Free Europe, Radio Liberty. I see political activists from Russia coming here and staying here every day right now. So don't you think that you will be more safe here, or do you still think that you should stay within Russia?
Ну, естественно, остаемся жить в России, здесь никаких вопросов и сомнений быть не может. Это наша страна, и мы хотим делать ее свободной.
No, we're going back to Russia. We want to live in Russia. There's no question about it. It is our country, and we want to make it a free country.
I wanted to ask Masha and Nadia, what gave you hope while you were in prison, and what is your message to political prisoners in the United States?
Что дало вам надежду в тюрьме, и какое сообщение хотели бы передать политическим призывникам в США?
Солидарность и взаимопомощь, то, что не дает умереть в заключении любой страны.
Честность перед самим собой и действия в соответствии с выбором честности и правды.
So first of all, that's solidarity and mutual help. That's what allows political prisoners in any country to survive. And also remaining true to yourself, true to your ideals, and behaving honorably.
Hi, Nadia from Eyewitness News in South Africa. So Bob Geldof, you speak of this failure that you feel that happened. What do you think was the disconnect? Do you think music can only go so far? What is it that you think?
Failure of generations.
You were saying the music that you took part in that had such an influence, but you were speaking about this failure of your generation. So do you feel like there's only so far music can go? What do you think still needs to happen?
I don't think music actually changes anything. I think that, the musicians are the Pied Pipers, terrible cliche, but they gather people around the electronic hearth, whatever that is, and then it's up to, they support these various organisations, and it's up to them to try and gather the community that the musicians have put around them and say, where do we go next? All we can say is that, look, we're here for free, we're doing our tunes, you like us, we support this. You don't have to support it because you like us, but that's up to them, to the organisers. It's not that this old man suddenly thinks that the kids today, it's not anything like that. I'm thinking of Pete Seeger when I think of these things. And, certainly tonight I'll be doing our little bit for Pete in my life. And, there's a bit I think tonight which is for Mandela, and I knew him. And for me, Pete had that same generosity of spirit, that same forgiveness, constantly, every morning waking up and coming to what he perceived as his fight. And he never deviated from that. And in that is his strength, less so in his actual music. And there's this great strand of American history that frankly isn't celebrated enough. Whether it's Woody Guthrie and his powerful great tunes, down to Bruce, etc. And it's a sort of other history that's not denied, but isn't celebrated. And to me, that's the actual Jeffersonian history of America. That's the real stuff. It's interesting. Everyone obviously it's fantastic that these women are, one, free, and two, here, and can make a pertinent point about now. But I find that the American media are terribly remiss. I find it boring and, not really relevant to another world that's happening, including their own, and not on the case, more worried about the demise of their industry. And sort of confused, and it's a confusing period. It's an exciting period of the world, a period of primary change, maybe not seen in our part of the world for 500 years. But in that is the opportunity in understanding or trying to define that. And, when you have new technologies, disruptive technologies that destroy outdated industries, so too it will destroy outmoded logics. And one of the things that Amnesty and all of us have to grapple with is what we insist are universal laws may just be parochial concerns. A lot of the world do not understand what we're talking about. Most Russians, unfortunately, agree with Putin. That's why he gets away with it. You know, Al Jazeera ask about what happens in Qatar to the people there, you know. I mean, she's funded entirely by the ruling family of Qatar. And, you know, do they ask them about what's happening there? We don't question enough. That's very disappointing. Just question, just fucking ask. You know, every single day, just ask your wife, dude, you know, why are you spying on me? Fuck off. You know, we had this already with Ellsberg. The argument was won. You know, and just because it's not Nixon doesn't mean the same questions cannot be pointedly asked, definitively asked, constantly. You know, what about Guantanamo still? You know, I'm not talking about unjust wars, I'm talking unjustifiable wars. Justify them. You know, and I'm not just a Keir, I'm Irish, so, you know, I've crapped on at the Paddies as well, and the Brits, and everything. Don't stop. You know, and if there's one definitive thing, I know you've got to make the story, and the women here are the story, absolutely, but I think you failed. And I'm looking at guys in my generation. They failed. You chose to be journalists, not doing very well. You know, but it's like, you know, Enoch Powell, the right-wing politician in England, said all political careers end in failure. All generations fail, all. And the next lot pick it up, think, yeah, we're going to change it. Yeah, for a minute, then they fail too.
I'm Mark Anderson with Washington Post, and I guess I want to, again, thank you for your tremendous inspirational examples, but also ask how underground musicians, maybe not the more popular ones that are represented here tonight, but underground musicians in the United States and Europe, how they helped inspire Pussy Riot in the first place. I think specifically of Riot Grrrl, but perhaps beyond.
Riot Grrrl вдохновили самым прямым, непосредственным образом, но также нас очень вдохновляет сама идея панка как музыки, которая доступна абсолютно каждому. И мы были ровно такими людьми, которые не умеют ни на чем играть, но очень хотят это делать, и желательно как можно громче. Желательно на каждой улице, и чтобы это мог услышать каждый человек, проходящий мимо.
Well, of course, Riot Grrrl is a direct inspiration, and punk music in general, because it's music that's so accessible to anyone. We were like so many other people, we didn't really know how to play anything, but we just wanted to play and get our message across and do it as loudly as possible so that everybody would hear us.
Нас очень вдохновляло такое течение, как ой-панк, в частности, такая группа, как Angelic Upstarts, и их попытка выступления в тюрьме. Naсколько я читала, им это даже удалось каким-то обманным путем.
And we were particularly inspired by the oi punk movement and Angelic Upstarts, thank you, and their attempt to play in jail, which I think they were actually able to do once by sneaking in some way.
Hi, Hannah Kozlowska, Foreign Policy Magazine. Following up on that, your art and activism has been so ingrained in counterculture. How do you feel being part of such a big pop cultural event?
Ваш активизм, ваше искусство связано с контркультурой, это все-таки большой событие поп-культурное. Каковы ваши ощущения теперь участвовать в поп-культурном мероприятии?
Я думаю, это вообще оскорбление для присутствующих здесь музыкантов.
I think that's insulting to all the musicians who are present here.
We have time for one more question, please.
If I can, too. We interviewed one of your bandmates in Russia, and she said that you guys
say who you're with again?
Oh, CBS News, Ariel Bashi. And they said you guys are not together anymore. If you can elaborate on whether there's been a rift in the band. And the other question I had was, you served 21 months in jail and you were charged with hooliganism. Was it worth it to dance on the cathedral in Moscow?
На первый вопрос можно ответить.
We'll answer the first question.
Дело в том, что Pussy Riot после того, как нас посадили, стала чрезвычайно популярной. И это уже нельзя назвать группой, это можно назвать мировым движением, международным движением. И Pussy Riot в данном случае, оно принадлежит всему миру, всем тем людям, которые надевают маски и делают политические протестные акции против тех аспектов политических режимов, которые их не устраивают в каждой конкретной стране.
When we were jailed, Pussy Riot immediately became very popular and widely known, and it has turned from just a group into essentially an international movement. Anybody can be Pussy Riot. You just need to put on a mask and stage an act of protest against something in your particular country, wherever that may be, that you consider unjust.
И мы здесь находимся не как те люди, которые имеют право решать что-то от имени Pussy Riot, или которые владеют Pussy Riot. Нет, мы два человека, которые провели время в тюрьме из-за того, что они участвовали в акциях Pussy Riot, не более того.
And we're not here as the leaders of Pussy Riot or determining what Pussy Riot is and what it does and what it says. We are just two individuals that spent 2 years in jail for taking part in a Pussy Riot protest action.
Нет, мы не жалеем.
And the second question is no, we don't regret doing what we did.
Абсолютно не жалеем.
Absolutely not.
Closing now, so I'm sorry I haven't been able to get all the questions because of time constraints. I just want to say that in closing that while I agree with Bob that there's a lot of reason for us to be skeptical, but there's also amazing things which happen when ordinary people come together. That's the only way in which extraordinary change happens, and that's the story of Amnesty International. At the beginning of this year, after campaigning for 20 years, we now have an arms trade treaty at the United Nations, which is regulating the flow of arms, stopping it from reaching the hands of people who are violating human rights using arms. Everybody said it's impossible. It was those millions of voices which came together which made it happen. So I think, supporting these voices like Pussy Riots, and I've just come back from Mali. It's amazing the women there who are organizing themselves to fight against the military dictatorship there. So I think it's, we within Amnesty draw a lot of hope from ordinary people coming together and fighting for rights, and we look forward to working with all of you here, and the support of the media is so crucial for us. Thank you for all your work.